Okay, this one concerns the new man. To those who know the new man, I can say he's the most powerful being in creation. And he lives in the most powerful nation on earth, with the most powerful president on earth, who recently termed all countries in Africa, nearly all countries in Africa, South America and elsewhere, he termed them as shithole countries, whose citizens shouldn't be allowed access to the United States. And this statement has set the world seething with anger for the last 2 weeks or so. Now, from the lofty heights of the New World, I want to think that all this physical world, the ashcan of the universes and its counterparts, is one gigantic shithole. That is just my assertion. So what do you think of this statement, Duane? Trump's shithole statement and my assertion that this is one giant shithole.
Well, again, there's many sides to everything, and I didn't hear about this because I don't watch the news, and usually Ava tells me something, or maybe Kelsey or Val, we giggle and discuss things. But I didn't know about that statement. I thought he was still pregnant with the wall idea, whatever. Okay, again, all this, as it's kind of funny. Ava and I talk and giggle all the time about things, and she'll read these things and she'll say, "Oh, well, the president said this or that." I said, "Ava, it's all marketing ploy. I don't care what it says. If it's war with Korea, China, or what have you, or the East Side Kids or the Little Rascals. The idea is that it's all marketing ploy, and Trump is paid by the bankers to the world controllers to get the world to continually react. When you really look at the news, the so-called news, whatever in the heck that is, I don't know if the Indians had a newspaper or TV at the time and watched the 6 o'clock news. I really doubt it. But anyhow, so we have the 6 o'clock news and we have all the news of the world. It's always some kind of news, isn't it? And it's really a kind of a nuisance, actually, is what it is. And it's is it new? It's not even new. It's just old stuff recirculated. And yet he's actually, in his own way, he's telling the truth. He's telling a truth, and that is that how he refers to it is exactly that, because he's part of the controllers. He's implemented everything to where the conditions of this world are such. And again, he's specifying exactly what is to be done with this world. Again, it's part of God's plan, and these are the gods of man. These are the gods on the earth doing all this stuff. So everything that's occurring here, this is the plan. And so all he's doing is he's kind of rattling people for what they've already decided and agreed to. And yes, what can take place on the world can be anything. There's enough for everybody. Everybody could live in mansions, as an example. They could. Everybody could. Everybody could have beautiful green lawns and drive Mercedes-Benz and Bentleys and Rolls-Royces. They could. But that's not the plan. That's not God's plan, you see, because then who's going to mow the controller's lawn? Everybody's self-sufficient. It's like, hey, I'm not going to go mow the guy's lawn. You go mow it. And it's like, then after a while, nobody wants to do it. So they got to keep people suppressed. So again, with that statement, which I didn't hear, it's very simple. This is just marketing ploy to get people to react, to get people upset because they don't know what else to do with themselves. Most people are so bored, they just go to the coffee shop every morning. That's all they can think of doing because it kind of fills in their day until nighttime. They eat dinner and watch TV. So the thing is that it just gets people to react because most people do watch the media. They do see all this funny stuff that Trump and other politicians are doing, yet they still keep agreeing to it, even though they supposedly don't like it, because you know what? They're bored. They have nothing else to do. We are not bored. Wonderful worldwide educators, we are not bored. So as long as we're here and the world's deciding to do itself in, well, we get the challenge of doing something real and see if people will wake up while we're waking up ourselves and becoming stronger in our own reality. And your beginning statement, the new man is the most powerful, whatever. No, there's no power idea implied. That's all in creation. With the position I stand real with, no, there's absolutely none. Actually, it's the opposite. There is actually none. It's like the air we breathe. But yes, the president and others are the so-called powerful nation. Yes, because that power implies force. And we see how the so-called idea of the United States is used to create a force against others, you see. Well, with my position, no, it's an isness, and in the real universes, there's no such thing because there's no manipulation, there's no control. You don't even need your imagination because everything is provided. It's awesome, it's real, just like the air we breathe. It's so cool like that. It's just so real, and it just is. It's so wonderful. And the thing is that, no, the power idea, again, is in creation. And yes, we're in human farming, and this is what the controllers are doing because, see, we're here. They see us on the real side. They see the real guys. They see what's going on. They saw the queen go into the Phantom Zone and the king and all the other knuckleheads that went in there and many, many others, and even the ones here that we've dealt with. They see that. So what they're doing is they're building up their marketing ploy to disturb the people here even more so they won't pay attention to what we're doing, Charles. So there's a brief on it. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, then. I thought that you heard this comment. That's has said so many nations, so many heads of states, especially in what you call the third world, really over themselves with anger. But as you say, it's just a marketing ploy, a distraction.
That's what that's what they want to happen, and they want people to protest because they do it with their emotions. And then, anytime that there's any of these reactions taking place, what do people, desperately try to bring in? Oh, let's all love each other, okay? See, let's all just get together and emotionally hug each other and shake hands and be friends. Well, that emotional reaction, they live off of that too. That's just like when people go to the corporation seminar, the reptilians are all waiting for them because they know they're going to do that because they're emotionally attached to the idea of Harry and Joni. So they utilize that too. So people keep going back and forth, and really they go nowhere. They go back and forth on the pendulum. If it's good, bad, right, wrong, love, hate, whatever, it's all the same thing, and they don't see it until they see us, and then they can step up and start to recognize what's really taking place. But in the meantime, yes, the media and the politicians are going to continually get people to react. They're going to do radical things. They're going to do bombings and killings and school shootings and all these things to get the public to continually conform to restrictions, the restrictions of their own emotional reactions. Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Duane. I've been talking with, I was talking with a friend who is in Washington. He's a corporation member. And he boasts that one of his strongest growth factors is keeping the law of silence. And I want us to come back to this. I think Ernestine had a real sad experience where the reverser told him not to share it with anyone, and I think this conforms to this falls under the law of silence. So now I want to ask: is sharing our experiences like a loss? Is it not a loss? Are we not losing something? Is it not compromising our so-called growth in awareness? Do we just could we not just keep everything within us because the so-called sacred nature of these experiences will be profaned if we go sharing them or something like that? So I tried to reason with my friend. I said, look, even what you're reading from Paul Tuchel and other masters, sorry to say masters, maybe Duane, is because they have elected to share their real side experiences, and in that way others can learn. But then there's still this factor of keeping the law of silence. I want to think that the law of silence applied in those ancient times where fear of persecution was so high, in such a way that anybody who talked about this kind of knowledge in public, who brought it out, was immediately singled out for destruction. So that is why secret societies cropped up, and people took vows, not to divulge what they had known, what they had come across as teachings from the real guides or the masters or anything like that, or anybody like that. So this idea of the law of silence, I don't know whether Duane can shed some light on it.
Okay, Charles. Yeah, it's the law of silence. Well, again, it's law. They use the word law, don't they? So again, it implies some kind of restriction. All law does. And we've come up through this using the law of karma, the law of this, the law of that. Okay. It all sounds good. I don't use any of these ideas. I just use references to the is. And so you can say that the air we breathe, it's silent. It's always silent, isn't it? So it demonstrates what is being referred to. Okay. But I'm going to set a little scene here, and you decide. So let's say it's you. You're standing outside in the sunshine, and you see there's a house over there, and your friend lives in the house. Okay, so you go over there, you knock on the door, and your friend opens the door, and you simply say something like, "Hey, what are you doing in there?" Okay, so you voice something. Okay, you've come out of your silence, and that's all you say. And so the individual in there, he decides to come out or whatever. But if you didn't say that, how long would he stay in there? Remember the old story? It was in the days of the corporation about the little rock. And, the rock, the little soul in the rock always thought that it was a rock. And it thought to itself, the little rock thought to itself, well, someday I'm going to fly. And so this idea came up, and all of a sudden somebody came up, just like you do along a lake or something. Someone comes up, takes the rock, and throws it. Okay, so all of a sudden, wow, the little rock flies. That idea is there. So, but as long as the rock is thinking it's a rock, that's what it is. So, yes, there is this aspect of things. Also, when the guides say something, and I've been told that too. I've been told that by many things, even with the funding, etc. You know, I have to be careful who I talk to. But at a certain point, I have to divulge certain things to get the process done also. So again, yeah, it's more like a warning to be careful. That's one way to look at it. It's not that you just stop talking to everybody or say nothing. And this is what Harold has implied too, is that he put out the idea many, many years ago, decades ago, that, you know, when you're sharing your inner experiences, it's kind of a cop-out. In other words, you're tattletaling. You're being a snitch or whatever. Because so he puts that idea out there, and as I look at it, well, again, this is where people don't know what's going on. They only see the surface world, and they're supposed to take whatever he says and the controllers of the world for granted that, oh, this is how it is. But we know otherwise, don't we? And as we see the real side experiences and things being exposed, we see there's a whole lot more going on. So it's what's all the secrets about? What's all the silence about? If we stay in silence completely. So again, there's more than just the idea of silence. And sometimes, yes, I would say it's like a warning. Be careful who you talk to or whatever. But each person, they're going to figure it out. And here's the cool thing. So you're the guy at your friend's door, all right? And let's say he invites you in, and you go inside, and you see, wow, it's just totally dark in here. There's no lights. There's no nothing. So you've stepped into that room of his. You stepped into his house, which is his human consciousness, we'll say, and you start talking to him, and you start telling him certain things, okay? And you've divulged things that are so-called secret or to be in silent, whatever. You've divulged that. Okay, so you take on that with whatever it is, that relationship that you're sharing. You take that on. Okay, so you get yourself a little dirty because maybe the place is dusty. But at any moment, you can walk right outside again into the sunshine, dust yourself off, and be on your way, can't you? That's the isness life is. So are you going to take the risk and see if this individual will wake up? Or are you just going to keep walking and just be silent? Again, you decide. And the boys are the same way. The guides are the same way. They decide to approach the individual. People think, oh, well, I'll just call on the angels or the gods or the guides, and they must come because I say so. No, they don't have to do anything. They have free will just like you do, and they're very aware. And this is why many people, even when they do the new you, they don't see them right away. It just depends upon, they see the sincerity in the heart of the individual, and those that are just have a lot of arrogance with them or attitudes, they just kind of just play around with it until they have a better attitude. But those that are sincere, they many times approach them right away. So again, I take the risk. What's life all about? It's about waking up and becoming more aware. That's why we're here in creation. And yes, the idea of silence does apply. At sometimes we are silent. But overall, yeah, you're going to get yourself dirty. You're going to get yourself tap line sometimes. You're going to take the risk for that. You know, having children is the same way. You're bringing in another individual, an unaware soul, that's got all kinds of things coming in. People think, oh, this is happy day. It's all wonderful. Hey, you could have Adolf Hitler as your son and child. You don't know. Again, so, and all these things that are attached to him come in also. And all of a sudden, the family has all kinds of situations going on because they don't see past the surface ideas. So are we to stay silent and say nothing and everybody just do what they've always done? Is it to where we're to stay silent? We should not comment on what the government's deciding to do with the Wi-Fi, the chemtrails, the vaccines, just everything, HARP and everything they're doing. Are we to stay silent about that and not criticize them or say something or defend ourselves? again, it's the razor's edge with everything, isn't it? Well, I decide to take the risk, and I take the beating for it. And even the boys shake their fingers at me sometimes, like, well, you said too much there, or you weren't nice to that person, or whatever. It's like, okay, I'll fix it. I'll figure it out. And again, you can always stand in the isness again, but you take the risk many times. And so, this is what we're doing now because it's been so heavily decided that everybody is to be destroyed, and it's just very real, even though the world doesn't see it. So, what do? You just say nothing. That's what the ecists do because they're comfortable with it, and many of the religious people, but especially the ecists, they're comfortable with that. It's like we don't have to say anything because Harold's doing all our thinking for us. You see, so we're fine. And so again, you decide, but when you take the risk, you see more. You always do. Yes, thank you for asking, Charles. Go ahead.
Yeah, Duane, I asked this because, excuse me. If we look at certain statements you make, we know that everyone is on their own adventure and everyone is on their own journey. And I think this law of silence that people talk about mostly pertains to things like this we're talking about, for want of a better name, let me call it exoteric language, or the science of awareness, or something like that. I don't know. We lack the exact words to use in such a way that will not conform to this what is in creation, but let me just call it the science of awareness. And we know that we've had different backgrounds. We've come through many lifetimes, varied experiences, and choices, priorities, and all the like. And so it seems that the real guides, as you say, they approach the individual, and there's an old saying that when the student is ready, the master appears. And so when we say a lot and put out so much there, are we not even robbing them of the freedom even to stay ignorant until that time comes? Are we not infringing upon this what will I say, upon this inalienable right of them of theirs to reincarnate as often as they want until they become ready to the point where the real guides appear to them and try to guide them out of creation. Maybe their time has not come, and we are trying to force them. It's like a green banana that you want to, by all means, to get ripe. And in China here, they do so many sprays. They will spray apples to turn red. You think that from the U.S. they'll spray bananas to get ripe and all the like. Are we not like doing this kind of job? I don't know. Can you weigh in?
Yes, that's very good that you see that, and that is, yes, we are. We're doing exactly that. And so, I'm not going to schmooze it over because there's no way to do that. I'm guessing that maybe you had an ant farm when you were young, and or have seen ants, around their hole going up and down, and seen documentaries about how ants do things. Can you imagine? There was a movie, and Woody Allen, if I remember, was the voice, called Ants, and I think it was a Disney movie. Uh, and anyhow, so here you got all these ants going every which way, constantly, 24 hours a day. I don't think they ever rest or stop, or they sleep while they're walking, whatever. Okay, they're constantly, and they're all over each other. They're constantly walking over each other, aren't they? And so could you hear the ants, from the human's point of view? It's like, hey, watch your step. Watch out there. Here, coming through. Hey, you stepped on me. Oh, that's my foot. Oh, sorry. Whatever. You see? Constantly saying that. Now, does that make sense? And all of a sudden, one of the ants, like, would just yell out, hey, everybody stop what you're doing. And now everybody just stops. All right, that's an example. And so, again, and so what does that mean? We just stop what we're doing? No, this is what we do. And what is the idea of creation? Creation is an actual agitation. That's really what it is. And these old sayings that have come to be, like the law of silence and all these things, etc., they're all cute, aren't they? But you know what? These are the babysitting days that we went through. That's what they are. And, many people try to promote them, number one, out of control, number two, out of wanting to stay in their comfort zone. And yes, you're right. People have the right to reincarnate. Again, that's why I call it the new presentation. You do whatever you want. I tell people that when people ask me, well, can I do this? Can I do that? Or whatever, I tell them, you can do whatever you want. It's your choice. All I'm doing is providing this reference to the real universes. So while you're in creation, you can do whatever you want. But everything here is an agitation. Yes, it bothers people. It's like, waking a teenager up from their sleep because they went to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning because they watched all their, rock and roll videos. And now it's 7 a.m. and they got to get up and go to school. And so the parent has a real fuss with them. So, yeah, waking them up, it's like, no, I don't want to do that. Go away. So again, yes, we are bothering people by the very fact of we don't even have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. Just by my presence, they're bothered by it, okay? Because of what I see and the so-called vibrations, we'll just use that idea, all right? And just like a spaceship landing on the Earth, just like in the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, just by the very fact that, whoa, okay, people have been warned about flying saucers. But if they were told that flying saucers are good and you're to welcome them, well, it would have been a different thing. But they were warned by them that, oh, they're bad, they're aliens, etc. So when they land, hey, everybody comes out and reacts, don't they? It's like, how dare you land, on our baseball field or whatever. We don't want you here. So, and for the most part, most of the world does not want me here either, because yes, I am disturbing them. And this is how it is. But this is what creation is about. For the ants to get done, as an example, with what they're doing, they got to crawl all over each other because, their little tunnels are pretty narrow. They don't want to build giant tunnels. And when they're out on the ground, they're more spread out, but they still walk over each other. But, this is what they do. And this is how the world is. And so with our presence here and what Paul brought and what any of the guides do, this is how it is. It's wake-up time. And just like that chick pecking its way out of the shell, this sucks. It's like there's the chicken in there sitting in the dark. The little chicken's like, okay, how do I get out of here? And he's got to figure it out, too. First of all, he's got to figure it out. And it just isn't that there's directions inside saying, well, you got to peck at the shell to get out. There's no directions. You got to figure it out. So that chick, I'm sure that many of the chicks died in there. They didn't peck their way out. They just died in there. Okay, so again, and then they come back and they do it again and again and again, and that becomes their experience, you see. And so, what we're providing is really a huge and wonderful opportunity, but yeah, it's also agitation, and it's also a bothering to most people, and a hindrance, because again, most people don't want to go through what they have to. to accomplish themselves, to recognize themselves. So yes, it's all of everything and more, what you've said, and that's just how it is. That's how this process we're going through is. So we can define it any way we want with our literal mind. And this is where people have been taught to resist. That's why they've created the educational systems as they have. They've used the ploy that, oh, you're learning something, you're growing, you're becoming, you're gaining knowledge and all this. It's all baloney. It's all about control, to where you are so literal that you resist anything of a benefit, because with your literal mind, you can't see the real benefit. So yes, we're doing that too, and that's just how it is, Charles. Like day and night, you'd maybe like it to be daytime all the time, but you're going to have to chase the sun and run fast or fly or whatever. But other than that, the sun and the earth is going to do what it's going to do. Everything is doing what it's doing. And yeah, so this is where, do you have the courage to step up? And most people don't. That's why there's only a few of us here, because most people are hiding and pretending. It's like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. That bothers people, and people aren't going to like me, and I love everybody, and I want to be loved, and etc. So what they're really saying is that I just want to stay here, unaware, unconscious, unbothered, and just eat my potato chips and watch the 6 o'clock news, and then once in a while I'll protest or have an attitude, etc. But for the most part, no, I'm not going to go out there in the world and present something that makes sense to this world, because the world doesn't want it. Most people know that. So, it does take courage to do this. And yes, we are bothering everybody. Just by our presence, we don't even have to say anything. We just stand around and it's going to bother them. So, but in the meantime, we are going to say a few things, because, the way I see it, I don't like to use the word, but people need help. They really do. And to see someone wake up like yourself and others here, wow, that's so cool. That's real. That's what I see. So I'll take the risk to do that. I'll take the risk to be hated and misunderstood, which I get all the time. That's fine, because it's not about me. I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm referring to the isness. It's not about me. Many people think, oh, you wrote this, Duane, you wrote that. I'm just creating references to this reality. That's why I use new words, new phrases, and I don't use the old stuff. Because the old stuff, even like the law of silence and all these ideas, spiritual, religious, gods, whatever, they're all distorted. The definitions with them are misinformation, and people are lost. They can't even figure it out with their literal minds, because they're getting new distorted information all the time and trying to relate to these old ideas. It's just not working. That's like your old Model T car, trying to fit those parts into your new car. It ain't going to work. It doesn't work anymore. So we see life as it is. What it really is, that's the best part, and that's where we have the most fun. But it takes a few minutes to get there. And so, yes, again, answering your question, yeah, that's what we're doing. And so, again, you got to be the risk taker to do this. You got to risk your life to do it, will you? Or do you want to just stay the same? Because you will. That's a guarantee. You create your own guarantees, and you will not know anything. So, the interesting thing is that as a person does the new you, well, that bothers the reptilians. That bothers the corporation. That bothers a lot of people. But the best part is the guides show up, don't they? And they start to show you what's going on. So if you don't do it, you'll never know. Thank you for asking, Charles.